ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్.
Right. Good morning. Let us continue with 7th group. Yesterday we have studied the general properties. Right. Now let us study. Today let us start with each element, starting with fluorine. Fluorine was first discovered by Scheele. It was first discovered by Scheele. Fluorine mostly exists in combined state. It mostly exists in combined state. The reason is it is highly reactive because of high reactivity. Because of high reactivity. So fluorine mostly exists in combined state because of high reactivity. Let us study some important minerals. Some important minerals of fluorine. So the first one is fluorspar, calcium fluoride CaF2. The second one is cryolite Na3AlF6 or 3NaFAlF3. The third one is fluorapatite. Fluorapatite. CaF2, Ca3PO4 taken twice, calcium phosphate, Ca3PO4 taken twice. So these are the important minerals. The first one is fluorspar, the second one is cryolite. You can either write the formula as Na3AlF6 or 3NaFAlF3. The next one is fluorapatite, that is CaF2 and 3 moles of calcium phosphate. Right. So let us proceed with the extraction of fluorine, preparation methods of fluorine. In the early days, that means in the 19th century, there are many problems that were faced in the extraction of fluorine. So first let us concentrate, first let us study what were the problems which they faced in the isolation of fluorine. So let us come back to this point. It mainly exists in combined state. In combined state, fluorine always shows -1 oxidation state. So if I want to extract fluorine, I have to take a substance of fluorine where fluorine carries negative charge and convert it into F2. 2F minus is converted into F2 plus electrons. So if you see, the process involves oxidation of fluorine, fluoride ion. F minus should be converted into F2. So we require the substance which, see here, what is happening? -1 to 0. This process we call it as oxidation. Oxidation of F minus is done by some oxidizing agent. So we require a chemical substance that can oxidize F minus to F2. So the first problem is there were no chemical oxidizing agent powerful enough to oxidize F minus to F2. The reason is F2 itself is a very powerful oxidizing agent, is very good oxidizing agent. Once again, there were no chemical oxidizing agents that were available which can convert F minus to F2 because F2 itself is a good oxidizing agent. The second point, even if you have done this, that is conversion of F minus to F2, the formed fluorine readily attacks, immediately attacks, instantaneously attacks all the materials of the vessel. Take whatever the vessel you make, the material of the vessel is attacked by the F2 because of high reactivity and convert into some compound. That means again it converts into a compound in which fluorine is present as F minus. So here we have to remember 2 points. There were no chemical oxidizing agents, so chemical methods are not available because there is no powerful oxidizing agent that can convert F minus to F2. The second one is high reactivity of fluorine, right? Whatever the fluorine that you prepare with some difficulty, with great difficulty, that fluorine attacks all the materials of the vessel and convert back into some compound. That means F2 converts back into F minus. So due to these two reasons, chemical methods are not available at that time. The next one is by taking HF. So they tried with HF. So if you take liquid HF, it is highly stable. Why it is highly stable? Because of hydrogen bonding. Because of hydrogen bonding. They exist as associated liquid. Therefore, if you try to extract fluorine from HF, right, the first difficulty you face is it is highly stable because of hydrogen bonding. So you have to spend more energy. Next, it is corrosive. What is the meaning of corrosive? It starts attacking the material of the vessel. Next, it is poisonous in nature. Because of this reason, the extraction of fluorine, isolation of fluorine from HF was difficult. So instead of using liquid HF, if you try with anhydrous HF, the problem with anhydrous HF, it is covalent in nature. Because of covalent nature, you don't get ions easily. Next, so because of non-availability of ions, it is non-conducting in nature. It is non-conducting in nature. That means it do not allow the passage of electricity. So once again, so if you try to prepare fluorine, isolate fluorine by taking liquid HF, the problems associated with liquid HF are it itself is highly stable. The second one is it is highly corrosive. So you cannot just store in vessel and do the reactions continuously, and it is poisonous in nature. So instead of using liquid HF, if you try with anhydrous HF, the problem with anhydrous HF, the problem faced were the compound is covalent in nature. Because of that, you have to spend more energy to break the bonds, and because of the covalent nature, the anhydrous HF is also non-conducting. So these were the difficulties with HF. So instead of using liquid HF, if you use some aqueous solution, aqueous salt solution of fluorine, then fluorine generally it should exist as F minus, so anion. If you conduct electrolysis, anion should migrate to anode. But if I take aqueous HF, so you may get F minus, but in from water, aqueous means water, there is plenty of water, so you have OH minus. So there is combination between these two, and instead of F minus, OH minus will undergo reduction, and you will get ozonized oxygen. Ozone plus oxygen, ozonized oxygen instead of F2. So once again, if I use aqueous salt solution, so instead of getting F2, you may end up with ozonized oxygen because there are two anions, F minus and OH minus. From where you are getting OH minus? Because we are taking aqueous solution, aqueous salt solution, salt dissolved in water. So there is plenty of water. From water you will get OH minus ion. So if there is here there is combination between these two ions. So instead of F minus, OH minus will undergo reduction at the anode. Oxidation at the anode, loss of electron, oxidation at the anode, and you will get ozonized oxygen instead of fluorine. So these were the difficulties that were faced during the 19th century. Right. So these difficulties were overcome by a person known as Moissan. Moissan was the first person who successfully prepared isolated fluorine by electrolysis. Henry Moissan isolated fluorine in the year 1886 by electrolysis of cooled solution KHF2 in liquid HF solution. So he carried out this electrolysis of cooled solution of KHF2 in liquid HF. He carried out this experiment in 1886, right, and he was successfully able to isolate fluorine. For this work he was awarded a Nobel Prize in 1906. So what he has done, what are the reactions? So here the electrolytic vessel, electrolytic cell, it was made of platinum iridium alloy, platinum and iridium alloy. The electrodes were also made up of same material, platinum iridium alloy, and the electrolyte is a mixture of HF and KF in 12:1 ratio. KF dissolved in liquid HF in 12:1 mole ratio. 12 moles of HF for each mole of KF. Right. So here it acts as solvent. Right. So temperature is maintained around 250 Kelvin. So these were the reaction that takes place during the electrolysis. So this is the experimental setup, the electrolytic cell. So what is this electrolytic cell that we'll study in electrochemistry? The vessel is made up of platinum iridium alloy. Even the electrodes were made up of platinum iridium alloy. So generally we use steel, graphite rods or iron rods as electrodes, but here if you use them they will be readily attacked by the fluorine. So here he used special material made up of platinum and iridium alloy which are resistance for the which show resistance towards the attack of fluorine. So let us come back to the reaction. Alright. So when you mix these two, HF and KF, KF plus HF, they react to form KHF2, an addition compound like this. KHF2. This KHF2 dissociates on heating around 70 degrees, 60 to 70 degrees Celsius into K plus, H plus and 2F minus. So we have cations and anions. So in the presence of electric field, anion migrates towards anode. So what is the anion here? We have only one anion here. What is that? F minus. If I use aqueous solution, then OH minus will also be present, there will be competition. So here we have only one anion, that is F minus. So F minus discharges its charge, right, by loss of 2 electrons and converts into F2. So we call it as oxidation. At cathode you have 2 ions, K plus and H plus. The discharge potential of H plus is less, so it will be discharged first. 2H plus 2 electrons is converted into H2. So he was successfully able to isolate fluorine, right, for which he was awarded Nobel Prize also. So this is the Moissan method, right, electrolyte into L:1 ratio, and these are the cations, this is the anion. In the presence of applied field, anion migrates towards anode because anode is positively charged electrode. Cations migrates towards cathode. Cations are positively charged, cathode is negatively charged. So it is because of electrostatic attraction, right. If you have two cations, then one of them will be discharged, the other remains in the solution, right. So that depends upon discharge potential. What is this discharge potential? All those things we'll study in electrochemistry. So between these two, H plus has a lower discharge potential, H plus require less energy, therefore it is first released. So this is about Moissan's method. At present, they carry out the same electrolytic process in a modern way. So I will try to draw the vessel here. So let us name this. The red one is anode, carbon anode. The red one is carbon anode. Carbon means all the graphite that is present should be removed, because if graphite is present, it readily reacts with the liberated fluorine. So as the reaction takes place, the mass of the anode keep on decreasing and the function of the anode will be stopped. That means no reaction will takes place. So we use a carbon that is ungraphitized carbon, right? Which is impregnated with copper. So at some points, to increase the conductivity, to maintain the conductivity, the copper atoms are impregnated. So ungraphitized carbon anode which is impregnated with copper. Next, so these are, so here we take electrolyte. Now this blue one is steel cathode. The electrolyte solution is KF 2HF, mixture of KFi 2HF or H2F2 you can write. Now the green one, they are separators. They do not allow the mixing of gases. Right. So this is cathode. At cathode, which gas is released? Hydrogen gas. Right. So here and here we get hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas. At anode, fluorine gas is released. So this is anode. So from here you will get fluorine gas. This is electrolyte solution. This is steel cathode. So the same reaction takes place, right? So this is a modern electrolytic cell. So this is electrolytic cell made up of steel cathode. The red one is anode. It is made up of ungraphitized carbon, right? And these two are separators. They do not allow the mixing of two gases, right? If they are allowed to react, H2 reacts fluorine reacts violently, vigorously, exclusively with hydrogen, it may lead to explosion of the cell. So this mixing of these two gases, right, is prevented by these separators, metal separators, and the same reactions will take place. So this is about preparation of fluorine. Let us study the properties of fluorine. Starting with physical properties. Fluorine is a light yellow colored gas. We have studied yesterday light yellow colored gas, which is poisonous in nature. Right. Since it is a gas, we compare the density with air, whether it is heavier than air or lighter than air. That is what we compare. Right. So it is heavier than air. That means its density is more than that of air. Right. Light yellow colored gas, poisonous nature. It has very pungent and a ghataina smell, pungent smell or pungent odor. right? So these are the physical properties. Light yellow colored gas, poisonous in nature with pungent smell, heavier than air. Coming to its boiling point and melting point. The boiling point, if you cool it, you will get liquid. The boiling point of that liquid is 86 Kelvin, and melting point of fluorine is 53 Kelvin. So these temperatures are way below the room temperatures, hence at room temperature it is a gas. Coming to the chemical properties. Coming to chemical properties, as we have already studied, halogens are highly reactive. Fluorine is most electronegative element and it is more reactive. Because of high reactivity, see what kind of oxidation state it takes, it exists. Fluorine always wants to convert into F minus. It always shows negative oxidation state in its compounds because it is highly electronegative element. F2 is converted into F minus. Here F2 oxidation state is 0, here oxidation state is minus 1. It itself will undergo reduction because here there is decrease in the oxidation state from 0 to minus 1. Its oxidation state decreases. That means it itself is undergoing reduction. Therefore, it acts as oxidizing agent. Once again, in whatever the reactions we are going to study, right, in most of the reaction F2 is converted into F minus because it is highly electronegative element. It wants to gain that one electron. It want to gain one electron. Since it is gaining electron, it undergoes reduction. It itself will undergoes reduction. Therefore, F2 acts as oxidizing agent. F2 acts as oxidizing agent. So whatever the reaction we are going to study, F2 acts as oxidizing agent. So let us see some reactions. First, reaction with water. Reaction with water. So, fluorine reacts with water and liberate ozone and oxygen, ozonized oxygen, right. So, let us see how this happens. So, fluorine reacts with HF to H2O to form HF and O2 to HF. We are writing O2, right? 2 to 4. So, if you see the change in oxidation state, fluorine 0 to -1, oxygen -2 to 0. So, oxygen oxidation state is increasing, -2 to 0, therefore it is increasing, it is undergoing oxidation. Now, if you see fluorine, (0 to -1), it is undergoing reduction, right. So, when fluorine reacts with water, oxygen is released, right. It oxidizes oxide ion to oxygen. So, depending upon the concentration, fluorine also releases ozone. So, ozone is nothing but O3. So, to get 3 oxygens, I require 3 H2O, 6 hydrogens, 6 HF. Therefore, I have to take 3 F2, right. So, if I assign the oxygen -2, -1, 0. So, oxygen oxidation state changes from -2 to 0, oxygen is oxidized, fluorine changes from 0 to -1, therefore, fluorine undergoes reduction, fluorine acts as oxidizing agent, right. So, you may get oxygen or you may get ozone depending upon the concentration. Next, reaction with alkali. say sodium hydroxide alkali. With cold and dilute alkali, OF2 is produced. With hot concentrated alkali, oxygen gas is produced. So these are the reactions. Same thing, it liberates oxygen. Sodium already present in +1, it cannot be oxidized. Hydrogen +1, it cannot be oxidized. There is only one element that can be oxidized, is oxygen. Oxygen is present in its lower oxidation state, that is -2. F2 is stronger oxidizing agent than oxygen, therefore it oxidizes oxide ion to higher oxidation state. So sodium combines with fluorine to form NaF. All hydrogens can be removed as water. Right. So if it is cold and dilute, you will get OF2, oxygen fluoride, OF2. So you have to balance this reaction. So I am taking 2, we have 2 oxygens, 2 NaOH, 2 hydrogens, hydrogens are balanced, 2 NaF, 2 plus 2, 4, therefore 2F2. I am assigning the oxidation states. Oxygen 0, here it is -1, here also it is -1. Out of 2 oxide ions, there are 2 oxide ions, 2 O-2 ions. One oxygen changes to +2. Out of 2 oxide ions, one oxide ion is converted to +2, -2 to +2. Here its oxidation state remains same. Out of 2 O-2 ions, one is oxidized. Now if I take hot and concentrated NaOH, hot and concentrated NaOH, so what we get here is oxygen. Now just remember, OF2 is unstable at high temperature. So imagine that you get OF2, but it is unstable, decomposes into fluoride and oxygen. So hot and concentrated, in this condition OF2 doesn't exist, so it decomposes to be oxygen and fluoride. So that is how you can remember. So let us proceed in the same way. NaF, alright. So I will get oxygens, 2 oxygens, and hydrogen should be removed as water, H2O. So 4 oxygens, 4 sodiums. Right, no OF2. So all fluorines must be removed as F minus. So the most stable compound that can form is NaF rather than HF. So if I assign oxidation states, fluorine oxidation state is 0 to -1, oxygen -2, and here you will get 0. Right. So the best way to remember is OF2 is unstable at high temperature. That means under hot condition OF2 is not stable, decomposes into oxygen and fluoride. Next, reaction with say non-metals. Now non-metals mostly they belongs to P block, but hydrogen is also non-metal, right? So let us start with hydrogen. Fluorine reacts vigorously, violently, explosively with hydrogen, so vigorous that large amount of energy is released, heat energy is released. So if you do not control the reaction, it may lead to explosion. And one more point, here this reaction can take place even in the dark condition, that means even in the absence of light. So fluorine reacts vigorously, violently, spontaneously, explosively to form HF. Here also the same story. If you assign the oxidation state, fluorine changes from 0 to -1, hydrogen changes from 0 to +1. Hydrogen changes from 0 to +1. So fluorine oxidizes hydrogen to H+. The reaction is vigorous and explosive. Note that point, because a large amount of heat energy is released. The reaction is exothermic in nature. So coming to third A group, boron reacts with fluorine, carbon reacts with fluorine, silicon reacts with fluorine, phosphorus with fluorine. Depending upon the concentration, it may form trihalides, pentahalides, phosphorus. Now coming to sulfur with fluorine. So boron belongs to which group? Third group. Mostly fluorine is strong oxidizing agent, so it will try to oxidize it to higher oxidation state. So boron in +3 state combines with 3 fluorines. BF3 is the compound. So you have to balance this. So 3 fluorines, 2 times, 2 times. Carbon belongs to which group? Fourth group. Although the compound may be covalent, but fluorine being the highly electronegative element and strong oxidizing agent, so carbon its highest oxidation state is usually 4. So it combines with 4 fluorine forming CF4. CF4. Silicon also belongs to the same group, so you can write SiF4. Coming to phosphorus, depending upon the fluorine concentration, phosphorus shows variable oxidation state. So usually it forms trihalides or pentahalides. So you may get PF3 or PF5 depending upon the concentration. Trihalides, trifluorides, pentafluorides. Sulfur forms tetrahalides, dihalides, and hexahalides. But the reaction of sulfur, when sulfur reacts with fluorine, the reaction cannot be stopped at tetrafluoride, right? The reason is the hexafluoride of sulfur is highly stable. SF6 is highly stable gas. Hence, the reaction cannot be stopped at tetrafluorides. When sulfur directly combines with fluorine, you will always get SF6. You cannot stop the reaction at SF4 because of high stability of SF6. So it is easy to remember. Third group BF3, fourth group, these two you will get CF4, SiF4. Phosphorus, depending upon the concentration, you may get trihalides or pentahalides, but in case of sulfur always you will get hexafluoride because of high stability of hexafluoride. You might have studied this in 6th group, right? Now going to the next one, that is metals. Reaction with metals. So in all this reaction, the oxidation state of fluorine is -1. It changes from 0 to -1. Depending upon the group number, you can easily identify 0, 2 plus 3, 0, 2 plus 4, 0, 2 plus 4, 0, 2 plus 3, 0, 2 plus 5, 0, 2 plus 6. Now coming to the next one, with metals. So here I would like to add one more important point. Here fluorine directly combines with these elements to form the corresponding compounds. The compounds that are missing are nitrogen and oxygen, right? Fluorine cannot directly combine with nitrogen and oxygen. Right, under normal condition, fluorine cannot directly combine with nitrogen and oxygen. So I have written here the reaction with fluorine and nitrogen, fluorine and oxygen. They do not directly combine under normal condition. Here they directly combine under normal condition. Reaction with metals. So we can start with first A group element, that is sodium and fluorine, magnesium and fluorine, aluminum and fluorine, and silver is also react to silver and fluorine. Just you have to know the group number. First A group, it always forms Na plus, fluorine forms F minus. So Na plus F minus, what I will get is NaF. So I will take 2 here. Next Mg, second group, so I will get MgF2. Third group AlF3, AgF. Sorry. So if you want, you can assign the oxidation states. So if I assign the oxidation state, sodium changes from 0 to plus 1. Magnesium changes from 0 to plus 2, group number 0 to plus 3, silver 0 to plus 1. Now coming to fluorine, always 0 to minus 1, 0 to minus 1, 0 to minus 1. Suppose if I take iron, iron exists in two different oxidation states, plus 2 and plus 3. So if I react with fluorine, which compound will be formed? Is it FeF2 or FeF3? Now make a note of this point. If a metal shows variable oxidation states, when the metal reacts with fluorine, the metal will be always excited to or oxidized to higher oxidation state. Higher oxidation state. So FeF2 reacts. So what is the higher oxidation state? Plus 3. Fe plus 3, F minus, crisscross method. So what I will get? FeF3. You will get FeF3. So let us balance this. 0 to plus 3. Iron to its higher oxidation state. 0 to plus 3. Fluorine changes from 0 to minus 1. And here one important point is reaction with copper and mercury. These metals become passive towards fluorine. What do you mean by passive? Do they react or don't they react? The answer is they will react. Initially copper reacts with fluorine to form CuF2. This CuF2, similarly mercury reacts to form HgF2. So if I imagine this as copper, now whatever the copper that is present on the surface that will react with fluorine and CuF2, the green color, let us assume it as CuF2. A layer of CuF2 is formed. Now this layer acts as protective layer. It prevents further reaction. Although you have copper, but between copper and fluorine there is a protective layer of CuF2. Similarly, there is a protective layer of HgF2 on Hg, which prevents further reaction. So it becomes chemically passive towards fluorine. So initially they react, which will result in the formation of their fluorides, which forms a layer on the surface of the metal and act as protective layer preventing further reaction, which we call it as passivity. So copper and mercury do not react with fluorine because once the surface is reacted, the reaction stops there. That is nothing but chemical passivity.